The movie opens up to the narrator's voice telling us that Masahi loves to find the cause of imperfections in things. We see the flashback of a young boy in his school running his hands through broken objects as the narration continues. In the present day, we see the face of a pretty woman with a scar on her brow staring into the air. Her name is Zin. We also see a man, Masashi, who we also know as Zen, looking at the woman calmly. There are guns pointed at both of them. Another man, the leader of a ring, stares at the situation calmly. It is a battle for loot. Another notoriously looking woman who points a gun at Zen asks for a truce to avoid a bloodbath. A man, one of Zen's men, whose gun is pointed at the Zin, asks for the loot to be shared equally. The woman disagrees, stating that they had invaded their territory and so deserved the bigger share. The man yells at his gang members, questioning them of oblivion to the owners of the territory. In his outburst, he causes Zin's hair bodkin to break. Using this distraction, she seizes the gun from the man, defending herself by pointing the gun to the man's head. This causes a little commotion until Zen, the leader of the rival ring, calls for calm. He apologizes to Zin's leader and tells them to have all the loot. The man agrees and warns Zen to steer clear of his business. There is an ensuing gang behavior understanding, but Zen, however, falls in love with Zin, the woman from his opposition gang. Their love is unhealthy as they are members of opposing parties. Knowing the dangers of their relationship, however, they date and have sex in secret while still carrying out their operations of obtaining money forcefully from people that owe them, caring less about the lives of their debtors or that of their families. The leader of Zin's gang, however, finds out about their illicit relationship. In the next scene, we see him driving with Zin seated at the passenger's side of the car. He stops suddenly when he sights a group of men having a drink outside a restaurant. He shoots at these men but gets stopped by Zin as he aimed to shoot at Zen and move closer to Zen, showing her support and love for him. Feeling betrayed, he warns Zin of the implications of her actions. He promises to kill them both if he sees two of them together and shoots himself on his foot, taking out his toe, to prove his promise to them. In the next scene, we see the lovers, Zen and Zin, on a bed. They had fled their home country, Japan. Zin, however, lighting a cigarette, tells Zen to go back to the country so that they would part ways and not see each other again. Zen is saddened, but he agrees. In the next scene, we see a pregnant Zin in a new location. She gives birth to a girl child, but the child has brain development disabilities, as announced by a doctor. Zin is saddened by this news but cares for her child nonetheless. She takes her to different hospitals for her care and writes to the child's father on the development of their child. In the next scene, an intel informs Zin's old boss of the communication between Zin and Zen. Her boss is displeased, and he travels with a member to Zin's home. Their visit is unwelcome. Her old boss threatens her using her baby, Zen's safety, named after her father, against her and painfully ripping her toe off in fulfillment of his promise. This event forces Zin to change her location as she continues to care for her child. Her child, we see, has special auditory abilities. She takes pleasure in boxing, which she eventually uses for her defense. We also see the love between mother and daughter as the mother, without complaining, cleans the wounds her daughter sustains from practicing. Her daughter fiddles with her hair, and Zin works tirelessly for their upkeep. Zen makes a friend named Moom, a chubby young boy who we see suffers bullying from other children. Moom takes pleasure in testing Zen's auditory and defense abilities. As they grow older, they use Zen's abilities to make money for themselves by organizing gatherings where Zen showcases her capabilities. In one of their shows, a boy throws a pocket knife to Zen, which she catches in her hand. The boy intends to harm her. Moom, sensing trouble, drags off Zen with him, but they get obstructed by the bullies. Zen, however, using her learned combat skills, fights off the bullies and secures escape for herself and Moom. In the next scene, after the escape, we see Moom teaching Zen how to further defend herself by dodging objects. We also see that the buzzing of flies irritates Zen, triggering her to scream uncontrollably. Zen's mother, however, interrupts the session just as Moom aims a knife at Zen. She reprimands him for putting Zen in danger's way, but he defends himself, saying that he was only teaching Zen to defend herself. He then drops the money made from their organized shows. In the next scene, we see Zen talking to a doctor in a hospital. She bathes her daughter, who has been waiting for her with Moom farewell, as she goes in for treatment. We discover that she has cancer. Moom does his part in taking care of his small family. He continues his shows to raise money for Zin's treatment and medications. In the next scene, we see Zen watching a combat scene on TV. Moom discovers a jotter with a list of people who owe Zen money. In the following scene, we see Zen apologizing to Zen for not being strong enough for their scheduled playdate. Zen gets violent because of her medical condition, and in the process, takes out Zen's wig, revealing her hair loss. She is terrified of Zen's new look, as she gets flashbacks of how her mother has always looked to her. This new revelation triggers her to scream as her other and Moom try to calm her down. Zen, however, uses a pair of scissors to shorten her hair length, showing solidarity with her mother. Following the discovery of Zen's debtors, Moom makes it a point of duty to go to each one of them to obtain Zen's money. The first man, a short round man in the business of selling ice blocks, denies owing Zen any money and gets his men to trash Moom and Zen. Wincing in pains, Moom asks where Zen knew the criminals from and explains to Zen the need to obtain the money. Zen understands this and walks back to the man, demanding her mother's money. Moom, however, drags her away before they get trashed by the man again. Back in their home, we see Zen holding her daughter tenderly. Zen falls asleep and dreams of fighting off scary creatures. Instigated by the dream, she goes off on her own to the ice block factory in the dead of the night to ask for her mother's money. Her presence is not appreciated, and the men immediately start to ward her off. Having flashbacks of past images, she engages the men in combat. She fights and defeats them all, and takes the money from Mong, the fallen businessman. She tosses the money as she gets back home, and immediately falls asleep. In the next scene, Moom and Zen ride to the company of another of Zen's debtors, who yet again decides not to pay up his debt without hassle. He makes Moom and Zen struggle for the money as his men toss the bag amongst themselves. Zen, however, gets hold of the bag and finishes off the men with her combat skills. In the next scene, we see Zen and Moom in the hospital with Sin. They come to get her medications and at the doctor's approval, take Zen home. Moom walks over to Zen and asks how she is doing. The following scene shows Zen, and Moom bonding over a playdate as Zen rides a swing. In the next scene, we see Zen's old gang watching Zen's combat of the second debtor, which they watch from the CCTV footage displayed on a TV. A woman suspects that Zen is up to something and asks their boss to keep an eye on her. Moom and Zen go to another debtor, a man in an abattoir, but the flies in the market trigger Zen, and her screams force her and Moom to leave the market. The noise also attracts the debtor, who looks out to find out its cause. He sees Moom and Zen as they depart the market. Back at home, Zen tries to convince Moom to allow her to go back to the abattoir for the money. Moom discourages her and tells her that the flies would only see the flies again, but Zen is obstinate. The noise attracts Zen, who comes out to find out what the argument is about. Moom doesn't give her a reply and walks out of her. Zen is determined to get the money from the man and goes back to the market alone when Moom falls asleep. She gets to the abattoir with a face shield and tries to control herself from the irritation of the buzzing flies. His reaction attracts the debtor and other men in the abattoir. He walks up to Zen, discovers that she's Zen's daughter, and upon Zen's request for her mother's money, tells Zen to come fight for it. Zen is, however, handicapped by the fly situation. Moom comes to get rescue with a fly swatter racket and encourages her to fight off the men. Some old women, sensing what would occur, ran for their safety. Zen fights the men in the abattoir. She defends herself against sharp knives used by the man as attack weapons. Jumping from stalls to stalls filled with meat, she emerges victorious and gets her money from the debtor, already wincing in pain from the injuries sustained in the attack. In the next scene, we see Zen examining the bruises on her daughter's body, sobbing silently as she fears for her life. The next scene shows Moom at the hospital getting some meds for Zen. A nurse hands him a pack of Zen's favorite sweets, informing him that an unnamed person had delivered it for him. When Moom gets home, he sees Zen watching TV. He hands her the sweets, which she immediately pours out on a plate. Zen questions Moom about the bruises on their bodies. Zen starts to scream, and they go to see the cause of her screams. They see a scary black object on the plate gotten out of the pack of sweets. Zen interrogates Moom on the recent happenings, and when Moom refuses to speak, she hits him angrily, forcing him to confess. He revealed that he found her book list of debtors and has been going with Zen to retrieve back her money to take care of their bills and her medications. When Zen gets calm, Moom asks Zen about the people in the book. He asks her if she had trouble with them, but Zen doesn't respond. She instead tells him to take a letter to Nishi-san's restaurant and inform him of how important the situation is. Moom agrees, rides to the restaurant, but is informed of the recipient's absence. A man at the restaurant, however, promises to relay Mom's message. As Moom heads out, two women stop him, and he is shot down by one of the women. The next scene reveals Zin's old gang boss going through some postcards. The women who shot Moom inform him of Zin's intent to send her lover a letter. The boss gives his approval for the letter to be sent, stating that it would make them settle their matter once and for all. Zen receives the letter and orders for Zin and his daughter to be taken to a safe place. The next scene shows an unidentified man receiving a phone call in a car. The man's face is, however, revealed when we see him intruding into Zin's home. As he looks through the house with a gun, another car stops in front of the house. He hides himself and four women, each with guns, barge into the house. They search for Zin and her daughter to shoot them. And upon seeing no one at the house, one of them makes a phone call informing the recipient of their futile search. They, however, sit to watch some TV, and as they enjoy themselves, the man emerges and kills all four of them. He informs Zen on the phone that Zin and his daughter have fled the house, but he still thinks they are alive. He says he'll check the shop and, while still speaking on the phone, gets shot by another member of Zin's old gang. Zin's boss picks up the phone and speaks to Zen, asking if he remembers him. Zen gets infuriated and breaks his phone. The next scene shows Zen in a Chinese temple. He enters a room where three men are seated. He bows to them and drops a coat from his jacket. One of the men, however, folds his hands and shakes his head while expressing his displeasure at Zen. Zen, however, keeps a straight face. We then see Zin and Zen, her daughter, in a hidden forest with Zen riding a swing. Zin proceeds to use a telephone booth. She contacts an old member. The members make mockery of her inescapable situation, which instigates Zin to drop the phone angrily. In the next scene, Zin and Zen go to meet her old boss, the ringleader. Zin asks for Moom's release, which her boss refuses. He tells Zin that Moom is the reason her daughter Zen and her husband beat up his men. Zen muters Moom should be released, and two men drag in a wounded Moom. As Zen goes to meet him, she gets stopped by an old member wielding a gun. Zen gets defensive, but also gets stopped by her boss, equally holding a gun. Zen defends herself, and Zen also manages to dispose of her assailant from her gun. Zen and her boss struggle with his gun, causing shots to be fired at a group of men, eventually leading one of them to be shot. Her boss struggles with her abs and blames her for going off with Zen, her Japanese lover. Zen manages to get free from her boss's grip, but gets shot by him. As she proceeds to finish her up, Zen, her daughter, comes to her rescue, fighting off the bad boss and an attacking man. Her mom fortunately gets hold of a gun and shoots her daughter's attackers. Zin continues to fight the man as they break the restaurant door. She fights off more of the gangs and goes back in to save her mother, who is being held hostage by her boss. She single-handedly fights off these men, but struggles to take down one of the men with the same tics as hers. She, however, masters his strategy and finishes him off. Zen's father shows up at the restaurant. His sight makes the men take up swords to fight him. He finishes them off with his gun, then with his weapons. Zen manages to escape her boss's grip, and as her boss attempts to stab her lover, she stands in his place, taking the injury instead. This causes a face-off between Zen and the old boss, two old rivals. As the battle ensues, Zen crawls to get her mother's bleeding body, calling out for her mother. The attacking men distract Zen, and the bad boss, taking this opportunity, kicks Zen away from her mother, taking up Zen's body as a shield. Zen still tries to defend himself. Angered by the predicament of her parents, Zen charges at the advancing men, fights them all, and goes after her mother and her boss. Outside, Moon points a gun at Zen's boss, but the man instead throws her body towards him, making them fall back. As Zen runs to help them, the boss shoots Zen, who luckily misses at Mom's signal. She dodges, scares him away, and chases him until he falls to his death. She does this while still fighting off more men. She gets back to her mother's body, calling her back to life. Moom is seen crying at a corner. Her dad, Zen, comes and consoles her, hugging her to his side. The movie ends with the narrator informing us of Masashi's discovery of love, bringing life close to perfection, and showing Zen's life with her father after he adopts her.